Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
This is my appeal to my brothers and sisters who are nationalists and my brothers and sisters who are maybe frustrated with the lack of understanding sometimes of brothers and sisters who take shots at us. Now, of course, there's some disingenuous people out there, and, you know, and I want to say this. There are some of you who take shots at Holip when other of us have shows. If you don't like what we're saying, please take the shots at us. Because I've seen certain of you take talking points and say, Mr. Hollipism, you need to address this, that, and next thing. I said that. And in some cases, Tyler said that. And then in some cases, Earl said that. Address it to the person that you feel you have a problem with, because we are all here, and we're all here to answer your questions. We're not looking to argue. We're looking to have dialogue, healthy, constructive dialogue. But when your coward behind can only think of a way to go, well, you know, Oliver is very popular, and you're going to take shots at him on YouTube, to me, it just doesn't make any sense, because that means that you don't want your questions answered, or you've made your mind up, and that's it. But if you've made your mind up, why you keep listening to us? So either way, brothers and sisters, listen. What I found out, man, is that there's you know how they have this saying now, they say there's levels to this? There's levels to understanding what needs to be done. And if you can think about the difference between a nationalist and a revolutionary, many people don't know that, and there's levels to that understanding in and of itself. You see, for me, years ago, I remember when I started getting mad at all black movements, calling them all black power plantations, they all sucking the blood of the people, all of them, the hell with them, this, that, and the next thing. And I've kind of come 360 with that. And what I do realize is this. When you invest yourself into a black organization, you are exchanging your time and your resources for discipline, for healing, and basically from separation of that life that would stop you from being successful. Because a lot of us, we were on a bad road, and we had no father figure. We really had no strong figures in the community, so therefore we needed a black organization. And the time that we spent was a worthy exchange. Some of us stayed in too long, and if you stayed in too long, that's your fault. It's not the organization's fault. I was in contact with a friend of mine who, you know, we were both, basically in the same organization years ago, and that person has now moved on, and they're doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, they kind of was salty about the experience, but they definitely recognized the foundation that we both had, and that's all that I could really ask. For me, I've come 360 with that. I'm not going to bang on these organizations as if they don't give nothing, because I understand that if you give time and you give resource, you get discipline, you get healing, and you get that isolation from all the crazy stuff that you were involved in, and it's worth it. It's like being in the military for a certain amount of years. The only difference is that you're not, you know what I'm saying, you're not basically putting yourself on the front line for a country that don't give a damn about you. You are actually fighting or being a part of something, you know, with people that look like you for a cause that is for people who look like you. And in that way, I think that is worth it, brothers and sisters. I remember years ago when I was I decided to give Saviors Day, because I do that myself in the city. And I had just came around to the thinking that I think of now, which is that, you know, most black movements really need to restructure the way they do things, especially the teaching, but the execution of the teaching. And I began to talk about how people spend so many years in these organizations and their families are broken. Their children hate the revolution and blah, 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 blah. And, man, you should have seen the backlash I got from that. And basically the backlash is because a lot of you brothers and sisters out there, you do not realize that you are not nationalists. You are just a revolutionary. And because you're a revolutionary, your goal is to try to do the best that you can within the system that hates you and that wants to destroy you. Me, I've come to the conclusion that maybe I don't have to leave necessarily, even though I eventually will, But I definitely need to invest all my time, a portion of my time and a portion of my money, my brain power, and my ability in solving this problem for good. And when I ask what is the end game, is not a revolutionary, question. What is the end game is a nationalist question and can only be answered by black nationalists, because a revolutionary, he fights until the system is overthrown, but there really is no end game for a revolutionary. A revolutionary, all they know is fighting. And that's why I said a long time ago, when you, in fact, revolt and overthrow the system, what does a revolutionary do after that? Because at that point, you're at stage 2, which is reconstruction. That's the rebuilding of your community, your neighborhood, your nation, or whatever. And this is the problem that many of your revolutionary leaders from in Haiti, from in Africa, and many other places had, is they had too many revolutionaries and not enough nationalists, because a nationalist is always thinking about the reconstruction. A nationalist is always thinking about what's going to happen after a revolution, after the overthrow, after the acquisition of land and stuff like that. And they are preparing themselves skill-wise to participate in the reconstruction. That is nationalist language. And you don't speak that language if you're a revolutionary. And what I'm telling you is that if you want to be involved in the end game, you have to now train yourself to think in that language, because if you do not, then what will happen is there's a lot of different people doing what we're doing. There's a lot of different people who are thinking along the lines that we're thinking. We just haven't contacted them. So eventually, many of us are going to buy land, acquire land, build infrastructure, and claim nationhood on the continent. And when that, in fact, happens, you as a revolutionary, you are ill-prepared to help us to reconstruct on that landmass. Perioso. And so that's why I say we need to be very patient with a lot of different people, because I think that there's levels to this, brothers and sisters. There's levels to this. To me, and I know I got to bring comments in, but I have to get this out. There is 3 categories of people in the Black Power movement. You have a revolutionary, you have a nationalist, and you have a scholar. Did you hear what I said? You have a revolutionary, a nationalist, and you have a scholar. Your revolutionary is the man that wants to overthrow a system. He is going to be running satellite communities within enemy territory. You have your nationalist. He wants to have nationhood off the shores of the oppressor's government and land. And they are the ones who are going to participate in the reconstruction, both abroad and here. Then you have your scholar. And your scholar is your brother or sister who is the keeper of the records, keeper of the history, who has dug through all of the lies and all of the BS and has found the original existence of you and I, our greatness as well as our fall, and have documented that and can transmit that once we set up schools, again, abroad as well as here. You need all 3. You need all 3. But make no mistake, I don't give a damn if you're in the Nation, the Moorish Science Temple, Hebrew Israelites, whether you're in the, in the Nuwabians, you are one of 3. You're either a revolutionary, a nationalist, or a scholar. My problem with 2015 or 2016 is that we have now an imbalance in the 3, and we have dumped all of the energy into the scholar pool. And there's not enough nationalists, and there's not enough revolutionaries, but there's basically the part that gets the least resource is a nationalist. And we need more nationalists. Wouldn't you agree? And so therefore, brothers and sisters, I hope that that's a beginner's comprehensive look at the difference between the 2. And from that, I think I want to bring in Brother Thomas now. And so many calls, it ain't funny. I'm sorry, y'all. I just had to get this out. Brother Thomas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm sorry, brother. I just had to get those segments out, my man. Go ahead and fire away.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that one of the things, we also have to acknowledge and just be, 100% honest about is that we have to be willing to evolve. And some people, and let me give you an example. I mean, like, some people, because they look at what happened 50 years ago, people don't understand the difference between strategies, tactics, and operations. I talk about this a lot. And just because a tactic worked 50 years ago doesn't mean it works today. Right? So just because LeBron James sits out, a couple of games it doesn't really change much because they have so much power. And you got to understand some of those contracts and all stuff. Like some people, this is the funniest thing, right? There are people who are saying he should make this sacrifice, but what sacrifice are you willing to make from now? He doesn't need any money, right? He's made more money than he'll ever need for the rest of his life. He has signed a $500 million contract, but in that contract, there are some caveats in there that he has to do certain things, right? But I mean,
right?
Why is it on his shoulders? Because he's not a nationalist or a revolutionary,
right?
So he's not expecting.
Right.
So those expectations shouldn't be placed upon him. You know what I mean? That's number one. Number two, when you talk about what's going on in the nationalist movement now, I think the revolutionaries misunderstand how this nation state is going to be constructed. And I want to be very clear on this because if anyone disagrees with me, that's fine. But this has always been my number one assertion is that and I think the revolutionaries don't understand this either, we're not looking to redraw the lines of the continent. I think that's foolish, right. And I think that's just a waste of time because everyone knows that the continent is very tribal. And then on top of that, when you talk about the overlay of the lines that the Europeans drew, that becomes a whole different issue. So we're not even looking to do that. That's why I've said I think the most realistic situation is a free trade zone inside of a host country. That, over time, maybe we could talk, like what happens in Hong Kong being a special administrative district of China. It's Chinese, right, where they have its own laws, rules, and courts, right? That is what I see. Right. Just because of how confused the continent is, right? So, yes, there are people who are saying, well, there's a lot of people that have to die. No, they don't. They don't have to because, number one, the difference between what we're looking to do perhaps versus what happened in Liberia, because the Liberians, the people who were the freed slaves from here, they came in, and unfortunately they were infected with the same mindset as their white captors. So they came in and they kind of, to a certain degree, they subjugated the people that were there because they had superior technology and they knew how to build things. And therefore, they came in and feel like they should be on the high end of the totem pole, right? We're not looking to do that. We're looking there to in most cases, probably bring opportunity. Now, I'm not foolish enough to think that there's not people who may not want to see that, but I think that with the way things are presented, we'll present them in such a way where it becomes a win-win. And the reason that we're looking at specifically, it's not densely populated. So all those things to be said, tactics, strategies, and operations, and just because your nemesis gives you a tactical victory, they make a strategic plan and make a tactical retreat so that way they can just replan to win the war. They let you win a minuscule battle. I think people just have to understand that. Learn to look at the war instead of the battle.
So let me ask you this. What do you think about, because I know you have experience in a lot of different trades and a lot of different fields of industry. What do you think about the concept of thinking in a certain language? As in, like, your nationalist thinks in a certain language, your revolutionary thinks in a certain language, and the two really don't intersect as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about this?
I mean, that's like in the industry. You're talking about jargon. You're talking about, in industries you have a certain jargon, okay?
Right. Right.
Just like, for instance, you can have, like, just in the economy, right? You can have companies that are in the same sector but in different industries, right? And each one of those, they have a jargon. There may be some overlap, but there's a definite difference in the language that's spoken, and that's kind of like what happens with revolutionaries versus, because like you said, someone who's a revolutionary, they're always on a war footing.
Right.
Thanks. So because they're always on a war footing, they're always looking at things from the standpoint of confrontation. So whereas someone who's a nationalist is someone who's looking to build consensus, and he said to find a way to create a win-win situation. Because here's the thing, nationalism is a win-win situation for us and for Caucasians, because you got to remember, in the way the economy works in the United States, a lot of these economic measures and stuff like that, and anytime they use the words urban and gentrification, they're talking about the nigger problem. Like they've been thinking about this for so long. They never had a plan for us. Like, okay, I want you to do some quick math. So full employment, right, is considered right now 5.2% unemployment. Now, when you factor in the people who have stopped looking for jobs and stuff, there's this website called Shadow Stats, and they actually have other statistical measures. They actually have other statistical measures to unemployment. Like the unemployment rate is near almost probably close to where it was during the Great Depression. It's just that over time, as they knew that as the population grew, they had to find a way to appease the American psyche. A lot of things that have to do with the economy has more to do with psychology.
Right.
See, because if
I know you talk about that a lot too.
Yes. So for instance, if the consumer believes that the economy is down, they tend to hoard more of the resources, and the retail sectors, consumer goods, tend to suffer, right? So they have to always make you believe that the economy is resilient, is strong, is vibrant. Everything is a marketing job. Right. So they have to always make you believe that the currency is strong, that the U.S. military is strong. They have to make you believe that you live in this imaginary bubble of protection and nothing can happen to you. That was shaken up in 2001, right? But that was just a way to jar people, to make them feel like we need the government to protect us. So they created a problem and presented a solution. The difference, and what we're hoping to do is create a situation where we don't have to do that. Because, for instance, we talked about the education system here, right? There's a lot of fluff and waste in the education system. So imagine a situation where by the time everyone graduates in our proposed nation state, that not only we're going to have 100% literacy, none of this bullshit social promotion or we're just letting you get through. Everyone's going to know how to read. And by the time you graduate, you will apprentice for a minimum of a year with an actual trade and get a skill. The same way, and so it's the same concept that the Israelis have, that after you graduate from high school, you have to go in the Israeli Defense Force to make sure that the economy is strong. Every single person will have a viable trade, because that's how we separate. You look at Germany; they have highly developed skilled labor. If you look at Germany, so there's a lot of different models you can draw from. You can draw from Tokyo, from Japan specifically. You can draw from Germany. You can draw from Israel. You can draw from Sweden. Some of these countries have natural resources, and they're able to create sovereign wealth funds on stuff. But it's the whole idea of there's certain things that don't have to happen, and we have the ability to create our own reality.
Damn. Real talk, brother. Real talk. I 1000% agree, and that's I don't think I can really add nothing to that. I really don't, but that's definitely real talk, man. I'm glad that you came on tonight, brother, because there's certain ways in which I speak, and then there's certain ways that you, with your financial expertise, can clarify certain things. And I'm pretty sure that that's something that Holip is going to clip for a YouTube video.